in the years before the Baal Shem Tov went public with his teachings and with all of his knowledge, he used to wander through the countryside in Eastern Europe where he lived, and he used to go from place to place, and he used to visit the people, and he used to stay at these little inns on the side of the road. And he would mingle with the people, and he would draw inspiration from simple faith, and he would teach them. You know, he would give them encouragement, and he would teach them without them really knowing that he was teaching them. One day, the Baal Shem Tov arrived at a small inn, and it was very far from any big community. It was like a little small village. And he was invited in, he was warmly invited in, and the innkeeper's family gave him food and they gave him beverages. You know, in those days in Eastern Europe in the 1700s, the inns were kind of like a family business, and the innkeeper was usually the father, and they would live in the inn and then they would take care of the passerbys. So the innkeeper's family, his children, served him with food, and they served him with drinks, and they gave him everything that he needed. And the Baal Shem Tov asked the children, you know, where's your father? And they told him he's praying. And so the Baal Shem Tov said, okay, I'll sit down and I'll have my drink and my food and I'll wait for him. An hour passes, 2 hours pass by, and it was late now in the afternoon. And finally the innkeeper comes out of the room, and it's like 2-3 hours later after the Baal Shem Tov has arrived. And of course he goes over to the Baal Shem Tov and he greets him and says, you know, I'm not really a learned person. I really don't know much, and I can barely pronounce the words from the prayer book, and I definitely can't say anything in Hebrew. So I just take the prayer book and I start it from the beginning and I finish it, the whole thing, every morning, because I really don't know what to do. And so the Baal Shem Tov says, you know what, maybe I can help you. And so for the next hour, he sits with the innkeeper and he's patiently showing him how to use the prayer book and what prayers need to be read in the morning and what's for the afternoon, what's for the evening, what's for special holidays. And he goes page by page, and they put in bookmarks and they write things down. And the innkeeper is so thankful. And he says, you know, thank you so much. And when the Baal Shem Tov leaves for his journey, he says, you know, now I can actually pray like a proper person. You know, now I don't have to do the whole thing and waste so many hours. But something happened. Later that day, without any reason, the prayer book all of a sudden falls from the shelf. And every single slip of paper that the Baal Shem Tov put in to tell him where to go fell out. And the innkeeper was crying. He didn't know what to do. He's like, oh my God, how many months are going to pass by now until someone is actually going to be so learned that they're going to sit down with me and tell me what to do? And so he was very determined not to let this opportunity of talking to the Baal Shem Tov again, you know, get away from him. So he grabs the prayer books and the notes and he runs in the direction that his guest had gone. He didn't know that this was the Baal Shem Tov, by the way. He just thought it was someone very learned. So after several miles of kind of jogging, he finally sees the Baal Shem Tov far ahead. And from the distance, he sees that the Baal Shem Tov has reached a river. And now the innkeeper is looking and he's saying, you know what, how is he going to cross this river? Because at this time of year, the water is too deep and the swift is going to take him away if he gets stuck, and there's a lot of mud. So he was about to warn the Baal Shem Tov, you know, he was about to scream out, and all of a sudden he sees the Baal Shem Tov take out from his pocket a handkerchief, put it on the water, step onto it, and as if it was a raft, glide across and disappear into the woods on the opposite side. So the innkeeper quickly gets to the water's edge, he takes out a handkerchief, he puts it on the water, he steps onto it, and he glides across to the other side like nothing. And he's screaming, wait, wait, you can't go until you help me mark my prayer book again. Everything fell out. Now the Baal Shem Tov hears the man calling out to him, and he stops and he turns, and he's looking in shock. And he says to him, how did you get here? How did you cross the river? And the innkeeper says, with my handkerchief, same as you. By the way, that's some trick, he says to him, that you got. I never would have thought of it, doing it that way. And the Baal Shem Tov says to him, I think that the Creator is extremely satisfied with your prayers the way they are. Maybe you should just continue praying the way you're praying. And for me, this story shows about being simple. We don't have to be complicated. We don't have to be learned. We don't have to have so much knowledge. Of course, it's important. But when we want to connect to the Creator, simple faith and simple love, especially in these days, is so important. And that's what the Baal Shem Tov was showing us. Thank you.